What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Crew 2. Season 8, Episode 1 is now live on the game, bringing a lot of nice improvements that we really needed. We're also going to have a new motor pass as well, bringing us some pretty awesome cars. But with that, guys, we're also going to have some new summits and/or returning ones as well. So the first one here is going to be Shamrock Celebration, bringing us the Lucky Clover tire, which is honestly pretty interesting looking. I do like the color of that, but it will be kind of odd seeing that spin on a car. Then in gold, we're going to have the Kawasaki KX450F Rally Raid Edition. I would say a lot of people most likely already have this vehicle, so if you do, you will luckily get the money back for that thing. Then in silver, we have a loot digger set for the street class, at least a half one. The other half's most likely going to be in the next one right now, so the Vegas trip is going to have the second part of that set as well, so it's definitely going to be insanely useful to have a loot digger set. Anyway, moving over to the next summit, it's going to be the Vegas trip, and my goodness, guys, look at that Nissan Skyline GTR R34 Lucky Dragon Edition. That thing is honestly looking absolutely insane. I cannot wait to drive it. Not only that, I also love those gold rims on there as well, but besides that, we'll have the second part of that legendary half set for the street class. And then jumping right into this summit, guys, are going to notice you will be able to drive this car. Then we're going to have some hyper and/or street events as well, and luckily an Alpha GP race as well, which after that handling update, I do have a feeling these Alpha GP cars are going to be an absolute blast, and I will be posting all the updated handling videos on these vehicles in the future, so definitely stay tuned for that. But moving over to the next summit, April Fool's opening is going to have the unicorn rooftop, which looks kind of odd, but on some vehicles that honestly might look kind of hilarious. Then in gold, we are going to have the Volkswagen Beetle, which surprisingly, guys, is actually not a bad car. It does handle pretty nicely, plus it's pretty fast as well, but I don't think people are going to be choosing this Beetle over like the Countach, but if you guys don't have this car, at least you do get to go after this thing, and I do believe if you already own it, you will also get yourself some extra money as well. But in silver, we have the Live Reward Sniffer boosted for the hovercrafts, which is honestly a very odd set. I feel like a lot of people are most likely not going to use that one. But moving over to the next summit, So French, guys, is once again coming back with the lovely Bugatti Divo Magma Edition. So if you guys didn't get this car back in the day, at least you do have a chance to grab this thing now. I cannot believe they actually added this car back into the game again, but I do know a lot of players actually want this car pretty badly, so it's pretty awesome to see it return. And then in gold, we have the French Touch tire, and then finally the French Touch smoke in silver as well. So it looks like this season is going to be pretty awesome. And now moving over to the Shamrock Celebration Summit here, starting off with the Aerobatics. So for this one, guys, I once again use the Zivko Edge 540 V3. I really do feel like this is probably going to be one of the best planes in the game, besides the Harmon Rocket 3. That's also a really good plane as well. But one thing I did notice about the Aerobatics is they do tend to be pretty dang easy for the most part. But moving over to the next skill is going to be a buoy smash. And for this one, I once again use the Vector. It's kind of funny because I don't see a lot of people run the Vector on these, even though this thing is going to be insanely good. At the same time, though, I do understand why so many people run the 1414 Demon, because that boat is honestly going to be insanely good basically in every way. One thing I did notice about the V40R, though, is the biggest thing about this boat is by far going to be its handling. But moving over to the next skill is going to be an escape, and for this one, guys, I did run the RB14, so if you guys really wanted to, you can also use a hypercar and or a drag car as well. I did actually do a test run with the Corvette Stingray, and I got like 9,000 yards or so. So if you wanted to, you can also run one of those. But I found the Red Bull to be an insanely good option for this with the way that it does handle. I will also be testing out the other Alpha GP cars after this update as well. I cannot wait to see how they're going to do. But moving over to the first event is going to be a drag race. And one thing I have to admit, guys, I'm honestly not the biggest fan of doing these. I'm just not really into them all that much, but the Corvette is by far going to be the best option for this event. I actually tried the Inferno edition, and that thing was honestly not doing all that great. It was spinning too much, and I also felt like to a certain extent it really wasn't the fastest thing out there, so I would definitely recommend trying out the Corvette when you guys do this one. And then moving over to the second event is going to be a touring car race where you guys get to drive the new S1 GT4 Cup, and Honestly, this car is definitely going to be something to reckon with. Like, I will be doing a video on this car later on in the week, so definitely stay tuned for that. But my goodness, guys, the Saleen S1 in the touring class is by far going to be miles ahead better than the one in the street class. Not only that, this car also handles insanely well, and the top speed is definitely going to be a lot higher than 225 miles per hour compared to the one in the street category, so it's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on. And then moving over to the next event's also going to be a touring car race as well. And for this, guys, it's also one of the new events. So I do have a weird feeling a lot of these races are probably going to be kind of rough for a lot of players for just a little bit until they get used to how these races do flow. Because I did notice the tracks are kind of small. There's also a lot of tight corners on this one as well, but for me, I did actually run the Lamborghini Gallardo, and my goodness, this car absolutely obliterated this track. It was honestly insanely fun to use, plus it handled really well on this. I actually tried out the CCGT before, and to be honest, I was not impressed with that car on this track at all, so I may end up testing out that car more in the future to really see how it does compare to the other touring cars. I really do feel like having that new handling update is really going to mix up the meta in this game tremendously, which I would say a lot of players are going to agree we definitely need that. But moving over to the next event's going to be a rally raid race, and for this, I actually use the Ram 1500 Rebel Enforcer unit, which being honest, guys, is probably not the greatest option. The only reason why I say that is it's not going to be the fastest thing out there, so compared to something like the Volkswagen Beetle and or the Raptor Evo 1 Enforcer unit, you guys are going to be around 14 to like 15 miles per hour slower when it comes to top speed. I did notice the Enforcer unit can do around 167, and the Raptor and or Beetle can hit around like 181 to like 182, so you are going to be at a slight disadvantage running the Ram, but luckily this thing can still easily complete this event and also do it pretty dang fast as well, even though it's slightly slower. But moving over to the next event, guys, is going to be a street race where you will be able to pick a Kawasaki of your choice. I do have a feeling, though, most people are probably going to pick the Ninja H2. Do keep in mind, guys, this bike is obviously going to be heavy, which in real life it also is. Most likely due to the fact that it's going to be one of the fastest street bikes you can possibly buy. I do feel like driving this thing on this game, though, is going to make it feel like a refrigerator, so be a bit careful on how this thing is going to corner because it's not going to be the funnest thing to go around turns with, but overall I feel like the way that you might want to approach the turns is going to be slightly different with the Ninja. And finally, guys, the last event's normally going to be one of those mixed ones, so for this you have to use a hypercar in one of the US Speed Tour touring car events, so it's actually going to be pretty dang fun, and luckily the Corvette C701's not going to be as bad as I thought it was. I really do feel like this car is actually going to be pretty decent. Funnily enough, I do use the one from the Summit still. I really do think the long range edition is going to be one of the coolest looking hypercars, but the regular C7 is also going to be pretty dang good as well. And the biggest thing about this one is being careful on those tighter corners, but also keeping your speed up in the straightaways is definitely going to be a must in this event. But overall, guys, I do think this Summit is pretty fun. I really do think a lot of people are going to like this one. Let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments below. Let's jump right into this.